Welcome back to this podcast. This is Bliss.
And this is Shelby.
And today we are going to be extending last week's podcast basically, and we're going to be touching specifically on the topic of secondhand self and how that relates to us and our happiness.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so by secondhand self, we mean, we mean that it's kind of like when you're not being true to yourself. You're not your true self. You kind of grew up doing what others expected you to do, and so therefore you didn't get to grow up and experience things that make you you.
Yeah, from your own perspective, because the voice inside your head wasn't the voice for you. It was, oh, my family or whomever it is that you're trying to live by their expectations. You say, this person expects this, so I should do this because of this, not, this would make me happy, I'm going to do this.
Right. Yeah. And I know I have heard the term secondhand self before, I just don't remember where. But when we tried to look it up, we weren't getting anything.
Nothing.
And so, yeah, that it's a term we will be using because to us it makes more sense than saying just your true self.
Yeah.
Not your true self.
It's just the version of you that you created by living to other people's standards or what you thought were their standards that sometimes may not even be their standards. It's just what they may have expected of you at one point, and so then you assume they still carry that on, and so you still hold that burden for yourself.
And I think society plays a big role in that.
It does.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way you were brought up can play a role too. Like, if you had a lot of expectations, like if you were expected to excel a lot because you had potential or whatever it may be, and you felt that pressure, that's something that could be a part of it. That was a big thing for me. I was always afraid to do things and try new things because I was afraid of getting in trouble. And I'm not saying, yes, let's go out and do whatever we want, but I'm just saying I don't have a lot of, like, those fun experiences that I would share with my kids growing up because I was too busy worried about, oh, what's this person going to think, or what are they going to say if I do this, or what are people going to think of me if I act this way. Like, it was never about what I wanted to do. It was always about, oh, well, this person's going to say this, or XYZ, or this person here, this person there. And it's not just one person for me, it's everybody. I think about everybody I care about and how each single one of them would feel about every decision I make, and that's how I base my decisions. Yeah. Which is not fair to myself, because therefore I really don't have my own identity. My identity is a collective of the people that I spend time around. It's a damn good thing that I spend time around good people, so I don't suck, but, like, you know, if you are somebody who is this way and you surround yourself with the wrong crowd, I'm just saying be careful, because it can really lead you in the wrong direction. I don't really have a ton of advice as far as, like, how to work past it or anything.
It's hard to work past something like that.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like conditioning. You get conditioned into it. And
it's just your way of thinking at that point. Yeah. See, that's the thing, like, and it's like guilt driven, and I'm driven by guilt in a lot of other aspects because guilt, a lot of mental health stems from guilt too. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard because I every day I want to do what I want without having to worry about what other people are going to think, but I feel like I only have these people in my life because I've spent my whole life curating all my decisions to their desires, and that if I then don't do that anymore, all these people are going to leave. Yeah. And then I'm going to be alone.
Or you're going to get the worst feeling in the world and think, they're going to be disappointed. Yeah. Like, they're going to look at me. Like, I feel like I've been put on such a high pedestal that if I make one wrong decision or decide to go against the grain of the path I'm on, instantly they're going to be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just trying to be me, trying to make my own decision. But that thought always comes into my mind when I'm making a decision. Like, what would they say? What would they do? How would they react?
You don't allow yourself that room to breathe, to experience things, to live life, like, to make mistakes, because sometimes I feel like that's the only way you learn. But the guilt that comes with the disappointment from the people around you is so much more. It's much more overwhelming than the desire to want to try things that you then are like, oh, forget trying anything. Like, I don't even want to mess with that if that's going to ruin all of this. Like, forget about it. And then you find yourself 22 years old and you're like, I have no idea what drives me. What do I even like? Like, who am I?
Like
you look
the
in the
hardest
mirror.
questions for me are like, describe yourself. And I'm like, nothing.
Know.
Yeah, nothing comes to my mind. And I always thought that was odd because to me that's such a simple question, and it should be a simple question.
I'm like, oh, I'm a girl. My name's Bliss. I'm 22. I live in the Midwest. Like, what do you say?
Right.
Yeah.
And I noticed that a lot of the times I completely make up stuff based off of what people have told me about myself.
Same!
Yeah, I'm like, well, people have said I'm sarcastic, so therefore, I guess I'm sarcastic.
I love it when they don't ask you what you think of yourself, and they're like, how would your friends describe you? And I'm like, perfect! I know exactly how to do this! I got that down.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
For sure. Yeah, but, like, those simple questions about myself have always been difficult for me to answer. And I'm like, that's a problem, because those should be, like, especially by being 22. Like, come on. But, I don't know. It's just not there.
I mean, and I feel like anybody our age, no matter what kind of childhood you have, this is the time of your life where you're shaping who you are for the most part. I mean, as far as your, like, ideologies and stuff like that, because you're old enough to really process. Think about that. Or maybe people won't judge you as much now that we're older. There are some benefits to that. However, I do feel like the secondhand self kind of carries on the idea that you're still a kid.
Yes.
A little bit, because it comes from when you were a kid. And so sometimes, not only do you detach from yourself, kind of, like, I feel very detached from myself sometimes. Like, sometimes I'll look in the mirror and I'm like, is that even a real person? Like, I can't even believe, like, that's me, but who is that? Like, that is not good, also. It's totally, what is it called?
Detachment?
No, dissociation.
Yes.
Dissociating. Secondhand self can sometimes cause you to dissociate as well.
Yep.
So, be aware of that. However, just because you're aware does not mean you can drag yourself out of it. So, do not be afraid to ask for help. Because I have too much pride to ask for help 90% of the time, and it does not do you well. But anyway, that's getting off track. But it can cause you to dissociate. There's a lot of other little things that can come along with secondhand self. I think
a lot of my insecurities come from it, too.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
therefore causes anxiety,
you view
too.
things about the way that you think other people will think instead of the way that you think about yourself. And so, like, and opinions from other people inherently tend to be negative, whether people mean that or not. And so, I mean, especially in today's society, everything is kind of inherently negative at the base. So, it's like, if you don't fit this mold, goodbye.
Yeah. And I think that's where society comes into play a lot.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we all... This could be a whole separate podcast, honestly.
That's true.
So I won't go into very big detail about it. But I feel like we are shaped into a mold that how we're supposed to be, but at the same time we have a lot of things that contradict that mold. Like, you're expected to cover up, but also you're expected to show skin as a girl. So, but...
Like, empower yourself, but not too much.
Yes.
And, like, love yourself, but not too much. And express yourself, but not too much.
Yeah. Because if you express yourself too much, you're overbearing. You know, it's just...
It's like, oh, you have to find the perfect balance of everything, but you, like, I've said this before, literally, I think in the first podcast, life is not a balance. Like, it is a balancing act, but you can never balance out everything. And so society seems to think that everything needs to be 100% perfectly 50-50 balanced. Like, there's no black and white. Like, it's not just this or just that. There are thousands, millions, billions of gray areas, especially if we're talking about molds of people, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That is a whole nother podcast.
Yes.
But society also plays a part in the secondhand self, because if maybe you don't have specific people in your life like we do that you're molding yourself off of, but maybe you're molding yourself off of society. And I just want you to know that is actually more common than basing it off of the people around you. I think maybe a lot of people... Not trying to diagnose you. I mean, definitely go see a doctor if you think that something's up. But I think a lot of people unintentionally secondhand self themselves to society.
Oh, yeah.
Most people, actually. And I'm not saying, like, you know what's right and wrong. Like, I feel like everybody, not everybody, but, like, It's almost kind of ingrained. You know when something feels right, and you know when something feels wrong. Mm-hmm. When it comes to morality.
Yeah.
If you have morals. Because there are people who don't. Mm-hmm. We do have murderers and rapists. They do exist. Yes. Unfortunately. But, you know, if you have that set of morals based off of society, I just want you to think about society and think about the expectations, and I just want you to really understand how unrealistic they are, mm-hmm. and that if that's what you're basing yourself off of,
you're not being true to yourself.
No.
You're being true to what society thinks you should be.
Sorry, I can't turn the volume off my watch if anybody heard that. But, yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
In the aspect of where the voice in your head is, oh, society says this, so I must do this. No, you have morals ingrained in you. Like, mm-hmm. you know what's right and wrong. You have your own set of morals. You just got to learn to mm-hmm. follow that. Follow your own voice. Figure out what your own voice is first, and then follow that instead of everybody else's.
Right.
Super hard. It super is hard. Mm-hmm. And it's super hard to work through the guilt. That's my problem right now. Mm-hmm. Like, I know exactly what I need to do. I know I need to live my own life and make my own decisions, and I know that I can do that. Mm-hmm. It's just that I feel guilty about it, and I feel selfish.
Yep.
And it's because I've been hurt a lot, and I've watched a lot of people hurt people, and I've watched a lot of people hurt me, and I've watched a lot of people be selfish. Mm-hmm. And I know how that makes me feel to watch it from the outside, to watch people be that way. And so then I try super hard to be the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm. So I actually had a conversation with my mom.
Interesting.
The other day, yes. Because she listened to the podcast. And
so you guys did have a conversation?
Yes.
Okay, we did not discuss this. So
yeah.
This is news to me?
There's, like, one thing I want to touch on because it's not something, like, that I feel needs to be out there. It's a private conversation that we had. But we did talk about my comment about having a sheltered life growing up. And I told her that no matter what, you either live a sheltered life or you live a life very free mm-hmm. growing up. There's no happy medium. And she, she understood that. She's like, she agreed. And
kids don't understand.
Yeah. And she told me, and, like, I agree, when growing up, for me, she had put me in a lot of things. Like, I was in, like, almost every sport, almost every school activity, and stuff like that. But when I said I didn't like it, she didn't push me to continue doing it. She actually told me she realized my anxieties then about doing those things, and that's why she wouldn't push me.
I was the same way growing up. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, and I told her, when we were talking, I did talk about how I don't feel myself and how I'm trying to find myself a little bit because I don't really know who I am. Mm-hmm. I told her, I said, even if I lived a sheltered life, I always just wondered, what if I didn't have that sheltered life? Like, she let me go do things if I asked, as long as it was safe. I was able to do things. I would never ask to go to parties, mm-hmm. because I was like, one, I personally was never really interested in the parties.
Yeah, you're not that type.
No. But two, I never thought she would, be okay with it. So I was like, I'm not even going to ask the question. Mm-hmm. Not even going to worry about it. And so I said, what if I did come to you and I said, okay, I'm going to this party, and you let me go to this party. Would something have happened to that party, at that party, that would have changed me? And would I have been a different person?
Maybe.
Whether it was good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would I have had experiences, met new people that taught me more about myself? Maybe. But that's, like, the biggest question there. Because I was always very... I don't want to say not involved.
You weren't a risk taker.
No. But, like, that's just kind of, like, part of the conversation we had. Like, those what-ifs always play in my mind. Mm-hmm. Like, if I would have done that, would I have been true to myself?
Granted, I did get on an experience more than you, mm-hmm. as far as, like, the partying scene, but not until I was a senior.
Mm-hmm.
But you played sports, and it's interesting that you mentioned this, that you played sports.
I didn't play sports throughout high school, but I did before. Growing up, all I did was play sports.
That you tried stuff and you kept quitting, because I tried so many things growing up, and I kept quitting, and the few things that I did want to do, Like, I remember I wanted to box really bad at one point, and that's something to this day that I still want to do.
I want to try it.
Well, I don't think there's anywhere around here, but we should look into it and see.
There are boxing classes.
Boxing classes right here?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind taking some of those, just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, off track, sorry guys. But boxing was something I really wanted to do, and I had just gotten braces around the time that I decided I wanted to do it, because I had heard that, you can learn how to box or you can learn MMA and stuff, and I was like, I want to do that, and they were like, no. Like, you just got braces, we paid a lot of money for your teeth, and I'm like, mouth guards, and it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one point I wanted to play soccer, it doesn't matter, you're going to get your shins hurt. I can wear shin guards, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like, because the things that I had been through were so rough, they were trying so hard to make sure I didn't experience any more pain, that I didn't experience anything, really, you know? And the stuff that they did let me do was not necessarily always stuff that I wanted to do. It was just what they allowed me to do, and I was like, they're going to allow me to do something, I might as well at least try it, but then I always never wanted to do it, and then would quit, and they never forced me to keep doing it either.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm referencing this because I thought it was interesting how we were both protected, but in different ways, like opposite ways.
Yeah.
Oops. But in opposite ways where you did more activities than I did.
Mm-hmm.
But we both quit them.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know, it's just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that it still stemmed similar results.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting how that...
Like, I grew up and I was good at sports. Both my parents played sports growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And especially softball. I was really good at softball. They used to call me Babe Ruth when I was younger. Like a mini Babe Ruth. You're looking at me like you have no idea who that is.
No, I do.
Okay.
It's just interesting.
Yeah. Because I was a good hitter. And, but I think a lot of it was again, it kind of goes back to the expectations. Mm-hmm. Like, I had so much pressure on me about those expectations, it made me anxious, and I got to the point where I couldn't do it.
Because you felt like if you didn't win or you didn't excel, you weren't the best on the team, that it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
And so I just got to the point where I was like, I don't like this pressure, I don't appreciate it, so I'm not doing it. And so I wouldn't do it. Yeah.
It's interesting. Me too.
Yeah.
It's weird to think that we're similar in that way, though. Because I feel like you and I present ourselves very differently.
We do.
But when it comes down to our cores, we are very similar.
Like, we're realizing how similar we are, and it scares us sometimes.
But yeah, it's just because we don't project it in the same way. Like, you're very reserved. You very much hold yourself together. Mm-hmm. And whereas I would say I'm a lot more expressive, I guess is a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Meaning I can be a little melodramatic, but what are you going to do? At least I'm self-aware with that.
Yeah, that's true.
But, I don't know. I noticed if I did find something I liked, that wasn't something that they forced me to do. It was something I just wanted to do. Not force me. Like, I played piano for a while, and that's because my grandpa wanted me to, because he said he always wanted to learn, but he never got the chance. So he said, could you please try piano lessons for me, so I can live vicariously through you for a little bit? And I was like, okay, I'll try it. Granted, I'm glad I did, because I think I am going to buy a keyboard and start playing piano again soon, because music is something that helps a lot when I'm sad. But it was just, I wasn't super driven by it back then. It wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. I don't think at that time in my life I was quite ready to take on, like, music, maybe. I was more interested in the sports and stuff. Anyways, I found something I did want to do. It was cheerleading. And then it wasn't my family's opinions that got me out of it, or my anxiety that got me out of it. It was the opinions of my peers.
Yes.
That got me out of that. They bullied me to the point where I quit, and I never did cheerleading again, and it's something that I've regretted since. But anyways, people are being hateful to me, and instead of me thinking, oh, they're just being mean because they're angry inside. It's not my fault. I thought, oh, I must be doing something wrong. I must be horrible, so I'm just going to quit the team, and I'm not going to do this anymore. I quit something I loved.
Yeah. And now looking back on that, you're like, why did I do that?
Yeah. I'm like, what the hell?
But in high school, that's the way you think.
Yeah. And then with peers, anyway, be considerate.
Yes.
But there also is a line where you've got to learn to live your life.
Right. I think that, even though it's hard and we're used to being like, okay, well, they want this way, and we're gonna go with what they want. At this point, it gives you an opportunity for them to realize, okay, she's not taking crap from us anymore. She's gonna do what she wants to do. They're gonna try and say stuff, but think of the gratification you're gonna get. So we kind of want to go over ways to cope with guilt and ways to kind of deter from becoming a secondhand version of yourself.
And the best way is that we know how.
Yes. Right now, for me, I talk to Bliss a lot.
Same.
Yeah.
We talk to each other.
But I also have been trying to find activities that I usually don't do, and I'm doing them. So, like, I'm trying to take a trip this summer with just me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so, but it's just a hiking trip. And I'm thinking about taking my dog, because why not? But that's just something, it kind of lets me have control, you know, and do something by myself, because I'm not used to doing things by myself.
That way, every decision that's made on that trip is purely whatever you want.
And I don't have to worry about what others say.
Or what they're going to think or what they're going to feel. It's the stress-free. Wow, I never thought maybe I need that.
Maybe.
I don't know, though.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to do it. I like the idea.
I spend a lot of time by myself, though, so I don't know if that affects much. But
yeah.
Just because my husband works 12 hours a day, so I'm alone a lot.
But then you're in an apartment.
That's true. Like,
if you were out doing something, I think you'd be okay.
Yeah, maybe. Because that's what's been driving me nuts. That's what I said to him last night. I was like, I know just going out and experiencing things would help. And I was like, but you can't go out and experience anything right now because there's nothing to experience because they want you to stay home.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I spent my whole life forcing myself to stay home when you could do stuff. And now that I finally am realizing, oh, I need to do shit, I can't go do anything.
Right. Yeah, of course. That's just how the world works.
Yeah.
I've learned to just accept it. Like, there's nothing you can do.
We do. I think we should go, like, on a trip this summer. I know my family's wanting me to go on a trip with them, too. And, like, that's another thing that's hard is, like, work. Because now we're adults. And it's so, like, we want to go out and we want to experience all this crap, but we're trying to balance the fun with the responsibility.
Yes. And, like, I already told my job. I was like, look, I got some things planned. It's not going to be on necessarily on every weekend. There might be a couple during the week, but I'm going to have a couple days. Every once in a while I'm going to need off, because I got to be doing something. Like, this pandemic happened at the wrong time. Because I had set goals about getting out more.
Me too.
And stuff like that, and not being so... quarantine myself inside the house over the summer.
Yes, yeah.
And then COVID comes and it just ruins that. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go hiking a lot, it looks like, because I'm still allowed to do that.
Another thing, back on track, to help with the guilt.
Should we start with, like, the first thing?
Yeah, it's the first step that comes with, like, anything that has to do with mental health, I think, is, like, just...
And we should say these are things that we think.
Yes.
And it's not, like... scientifically proven,
it's just
this is what you do.
What we found works for us, or what we have found works for people that we know personally.
Yes.
It's all based on personal experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're just giving you options so you can kind of find what works for you. It may be a combination. It may just be one or two things. It really depends. But I think the first thing that comes with mental health is checking yourself. Like, why do I feel this way? What does it stem from? Because then if you understand where it's coming from and why it's there, then you're able to figure out how to work on it based on your personal perspective on it. Like, based on your personal situation, how you need to go about fixing it. But I think what really helps is just to think, why? Okay, why am I feeling... Say you're feeling insecure. Why am I feeling insecure? Feeling insecure because of this. Why do I feel insecure because of that? I shouldn't feel insecure because of that. So therefore, I need to XYZ.
Yes. Yeah. You just basically need to become way more aware than what you were before. And then a very important one, which we do, is to, like, talk to a friend or a family member that you have a lot of trust in.
That also understands.
But they have to understand.
Yeah.
You know, which another podcast might talk about, you know, how to talk to family or people that might not quite understand, but you kind of need them to.
I think that's next podcast.
Yeah, it's very difficult. So... yeah, that'll be a whole nother podcast. But for this, kind of like talking about the way you feel and how you're not true to yourself, talk about it with a trusted friend, because most likely they could be feeling the same things.
Yeah, and people your age generally are a better match, just because they're more apt to be going through it because you're in similar phases of your life just due to your ages. But that's neither here nor there. That doesn't mean you can't talk to a parent or whomever you feel comfortable confiding in.
Right. Yeah. The next thing is focus on what you can do now. So when you're aware of it, focus on things that you want to do to kind of express who you are. And when you figure those out, do them. Because that'll start getting you on a track.
Yeah, just try different things, like try things you haven't tried before.
Like, I want to try pottery lessons.
That is really odd. Last night I just told Nick I wanted to get pottery stuff and make my own pots for my flowers instead of buying them all the time.
Okay. Anyways, like, we're not gonna go down this path.
Soulmates.
I guess so.
Like, I'm beginning to think maybe you're just my soulmate.
That's how it is now.
That's it. Set in stone. Sorry, Nick. You're my soulmate.
Bye.
You're still my husband. She's my soulmate. Just kidding.
Yeah, focus on what you should do and do it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm still working on it, but definitely
involve things that you're passionate about into your life. You gotta leave room for your inner child to come out through your passions, whether that be through art. Like, I know I like to go to I'm not going to say that because I don't want people to know really. I go to a local greenhouse.
A chop shop.
Oh, go to a local greenhouse, and I buy flowers, and then I'll buy a clay pot for them, and then I'll paint the pot, put a gloss varnish over the top of it, and then plant my flowers in it. Like, that's something that I do that I'm passionate about that kind of helps ground me and get me out of my own head. You know, that's just an example. Like we said, I think last week where we were listing things to help with your happiness, those could also help when it comes to secondhand self. I mean, a lot of things with mental health, the ways to deal with them are very similar. They overlap. There's a lot of gray areas.
There is.
Again.
Yeah.
With everything.
Yeah. I just saw this, and I think I agree with it. Don't punish yourself when you're doing these things. So if you think a negative thought about it, like, oh, what's this person thinking? Replace it with a positive while you're doing it.
Yeah, like an affirmation. Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing.
Because it's going to happen. When you're working on it, you're going to have setbacks.
Yep, your mind is going to immediately go back to the way that it used to think because that's default. So each day it's going to be a process of remembering, again, I gotta get myself out of here, like switching the negatives to the positives. Like, I know, like, the more you say negative things about yourself, and we all do it a lot, we don't realize it, like, oh, I'm so stupid for doing that, or oh, you dumbass, like, when you drop something, or whatever. Like, just over little crap, too, we belittle ourselves. If we just say, oh, it's okay, everybody drops stuff. Instead, just doing that each time,
eventually your brain's gonna shift.
And then your brain, that's going to be the default. And things are much happier that way. It's just incorporating positivity in all aspects. As cliche as that sounds, that really is what works. And I think another thing, too, if this is going to get a little personal, not really, but if you're somebody who tends to cling on to the trauma or the pain or the guilt because you feel like you deserve to feel that way, because you feel guilty when you don't feel guilt, like, again, everybody makes mistakes, and everybody is their own person, and there's always trial and errors to everything, and you have to allow yourself that room to make those mistakes and not belittle yourself for it, because those mistakes are what you can use to learn. And I think maybe using those to learn instead of tear yourself down, because that's something I have issues with as well. So, again, the positivity thing can kind of tie in with that. Like, just switching the mindset to be more positive with little things. Then it will move on to big things, and then it'll be your default. Right.
Sorry if you hear that sound in my background. It's the dog.
He's precious. He's even wearing a shirt.
He is.
It is the cutest thing I think I have ever seen.
Yeah, he's spoiled. But whatever.
Again, I want a dog. I'm going to keep saying this every podcast at the end. Bliss wants a dog!
Hint, hint. Bliss, what do you want?
Puppy? Dog?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the pet thing could kind of
help again too. Yeah. They do. I mean, it's companion you have all the time, and they don't make things complicated because they don't have thoughts or opinions.
Yeah, I can go on like a giant lecture about what pets can do for you. So maybe in the future, if someone's interested, I could make a whole podcast.
Maybe because pets are part of the family, maybe we can incorporate that in a little bit next week with the family and about how pets can become part of the family and how they help. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, because I feel like they kind of go along together.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of go week by week with this people.
I mean, I had the first 3 planned out, but
yeah.
I mean,
see, I'm not. I am usually a planner, but when it comes to things that involve talking, I just wing it.
Yeah, you're like, I'm rambling. It's fine.
I'm gonna ramble anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed about myself. No matter how much I have something set out, I always ramble. That's how my mind works.
So I think that's it for
ways to cope with the guilt. Yeah. I mean, you could probably do some research and find other ideas of ways to cope with it. I mean, I know. And
you probably know some ways, so if you do, comment and let us know, because we need it.
Yeah, we do, because, I mean, we're going through this process just as much as you guys. I mean, we're kind of figuring out as we go along. Like, these discussions we have are actually ways for us to understand ourselves as much as you guys are understanding yourselves from it. So, I mean, and that, again, could help, just knowing that other people are going through it and you're not alone. Again, cliche, but it's the truth. Yeah.
Yep.
Saying the same stuff at the same time is gonna drive me nuts. I was trying not to say anything. I was like, when's it gonna stop?
We get on the same track all the time.
We do. I do it with Nick too. I do it with a lot of people. Maybe I'm a mind reader.
Maybe.
Ooh, another podcast. Listen to mind reader. People be like, whoa, what did this podcast turn into? That's totally something different.
Yeah. No, they really don't think it's different when we get into like the
conspiracy theories. Okay, but that's just because I like to entertain the ideas of things, because I don't want to be as closed-minded as to think that things aren't at least possible.
Right.
But anyways, don't even get me started on closed-mindedness. I will go for days.
Oh yeah, same.
Again, that's the whole point of this podcast. If you struggle with it, maybe some of our tips will help you. Maybe listening to this helped you. If there's anything else you want us to talk about in the future, like any other topics, I know we usually have stuff planned out and we've got a lot of ideas, but if there's something specific that you need relatively soon for you, like, let us know. We'll definitely do it. I mean, we're very open.
We are.
So.
Yeah. And again, we only have a certain amount of things planned.
Yeah. So we will run out of ideas eventually, I'm sure.
If anyone gives us an idea, we're probably going to take it right up and be like, all right, thanks, here we go.
Because we have next week's planned, and then we know we want to eventually touch into some conspiracy theories once we wrap up our mental health series. But I don't know.
I feel like our mental health series is probably going to continue lasting for a while.
Yeah.
Because there's always something to talk about. But stop doing that.
Kidding. I know. It's bad. It's bad. But we,
But there's other things that we find interesting that we can go on rambles on.
Yeah, like, I like astrology. I'm super into that. And, like, spirituality in a sense, like, synchronicities and things, manifestation. There's a lot of stuff that, like, we could touch on.
Which, if you're not interested in that stuff, I mean, you don't have to listen to it.
Just keep... One thing I will say, and this will help, this goes along with the positive thinking. What you put out is what you attract.
True.
So, if you're thinking positively and you're putting out positivity and you're trying really hard to be positive, that's what you are going to bring into your life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that can be a reminder. If it's hard for you to kind of check yourself with your emotions, be like, if I think positive things will come. And then you will hopefully want to then check yourself more. Maybe that will help you check yourself more. I don't know. Just something random to add at the end that I just
that made me think. I know that we're at the end of it, but you know, you probably would cut a lot of this stuff out because we had a couple of spots. Maybe. But I saw this video and I was really tempted to comment on it. It was on TikTok. And I was really, really tempted to comment on it, and I kind of regret that I didn't, because I almost did. And it was this girl sitting in her car bawling her eyes out.
I think I saw this just last night.
Really?
Where she was like, when does it get better? I just want to be happy.
Yeah, why? Yeah. And I was like, wow, I relate to this so much.
That's...
Because I literally have had that.
I saw that TikTok right after I got done doing just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I really, really, really wanted to comment on it, but I didn't.
You didn't, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I should have, but I didn't. But stuff like that, I wish and I hope that she finds things like our podcast or other podcasts that talk about these things, and it helps her. Because I can tell that she's in that mindset that I've been in, that, you know, where everything...
You feel helpless.
Yeah, you feel helpless. That everything's going wrong, nothing's going to get better. Why you, when you do... Because she even mentioned...
You against the world.
Yeah,
mindset.
She mentioned, I do everything right. Why does everything go wrong for me? And blah, blah. I'm like, I feel the exact same way. But yeah, that reminded me of it for some reason. So if you have a moment like that, just let you know it does get better. It's a learning process. Yeah. And you have to also really repeat it in your head that it's a moment. It's not your life. It will pass.
This too shall pass.
Yes. Yeah. And that it's your negative mind speaking. Because everyone has moments in life that everything goes negative.
Everything starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
It's those moments that help you grow. As horrible as they are, that's what teaches us lessons. And this is something else I was going to say. I think we need to learn to take the hard times for lessons instead of belittling ourselves for them. Like, some people belittle themselves to the point to where they turn to, like, drugs and stuff. And, like, that's usually what people think of when they say, like, letting your troubles destroy you. But, like, we're doing it just in a different way. Like, we're functional adults and we look fine to society, but we're actually letting those things debilitate us to the point where we don't make our own decisions for ourselves. You know? So it doesn't always look like doing drugs. You know? Like, you may be doing it and not realize. So that's something to keep in mind. You know? It doesn't always have to be the extreme. You could be doing it in little ways too. So but anyways, I think we're gonna wrap up this podcast now with Secondhand Self. Hopefully we get better on it. I mean, if it's something that we both feel like we've worked through later on, maybe we'll touch and give you guys an update. You know, maybe on a lot of these things we can do later on.
Updates. Yeah,
updates. Yep. But, again, leave any comments if you guys have any suggestions or criticism or anything. Hopefully the audio's been better. We've been working on that.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I've never been struggling with something so hard.
It's hard because we've never done anything quite like this before. So.
I feel like every day I spend 30 minutes just getting the microphone ready.
We do.
With audio.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But, anyways, thank you guys for listening.
Yep.
And we will be back next week for family.